She said she needed space to find herself. That was the phrase she used. Find herself, like she'd misplaced who she was somewhere between our mortgage and our Monday grocery runs. I didn't say anything for a long moment. I just stood there in our kitchen in Kitchener, holding a mug of coffee that had gone cold, staring at the woman I'd spent 7 years building a life with. What does that mean? I finally asked. She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. It means I need time. Away from this, from us, to figure out if this is what I really want. Are you leaving me? She looked at the floor. I'm not saying that. Then what are you saying? Another pause. Longer this time. There's someone I used to know. Before you, and I've been thinking about him a lot lately, and I think I need to. I don't know. See if there's still something there. Just to know for sure. I set the mug down on the counter, slowly, carefully, because my hands were starting to shake and I didn't want her to see that. You want to go be with your ex, I said, and you're asking my permission. I'm not asking permission. I'm being honest with you. I owe you that. You owe me that, I repeated. She finally looked up at me, her eyes were wet. I still love you. I want you to know that. This isn't about not loving you. It's just, I have this feeling I can't shake. And if I don't deal with it now, it'll follow us into the rest of our lives. Into the marriage. I don't want to do that to you. And then she said it. The thing that I still hear sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep. If it doesn't work out, I'll come back. I promise. I just need to know. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't cry, even though some part of me wanted to. I just looked at her. This woman I'd driven to the ER at 2 a.m. when she had appendicitis. This woman I'd held while she sobbed after her dad's funeral. This woman whose name I'd been carrying in my chest for 7 years. And I said, very quietly, you should go pack. She blinked. What, pack a bag? Tonight. You should go. I didn't mean, I know what you meant. I picked up my mug and walked to the sink and poured the cold coffee I'd down the drain. I heard every word you said. And here's what I need you to understand. I am not a fallback. I'm not a door you get to leave open while you go test other rooms. If you walk out of this house to be with him, don't count on this door being unlocked when you come back. She started crying then. Real tears. I believed they were real. I still do. I don't think she was a bad person. I just think she'd made a decision before she walked into that kitchen, and she'd been hoping I'd make it easier for her, by reacting with desperation. Instead of dignity. I didn't give her that. She left that night with a duffel bag and her work laptop. She took the left side of the closet and left the right side. My side, looking emptier than it should have. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom for a while. After I heard her car pull out of the driveway, then I went and called my brother. My brother picked up on the second ring. He lives in Hamilton, about 40 minutes from us. From me. I had to start correcting myself on that already. She left, I said. A long pause. Then I'll be there in half an hour. He showed up with a 6-pack of Molson and a box of Timbits and he didn't say much. He just sat on the couch with me and let me talk. And when I ran out of things to say, we watched hockey highlights until midnight. That's the kind of brother I have. I didn't know how lucky I was until that night. What he told me before he left was this. You did the right thing. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did. I didn't sleep much. I lay on my side of the bed, which suddenly felt like the whole bed, and stared at the ceiling and went through 7 years of memories, trying to find the moment I should have seen this coming. Maybe I found a few. Maybe I invented them. That's the thing about hindsight. It's dishonest. In the morning, I called in sick to work. I teach high school history at a school in the west end of the city. And the idea of standing in front of 30 teenagers pretending to care about the War of 1812, while my life was falling apart, felt genuinely impossible. I spent the day on autopilot. I made eggs. I did a load of laundry. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and stared at our joint bank account for a while, then started separating what was hers and what was mine, at least in my head. We weren't married yet, we'd been engaged for 8 months. The wedding was booked for October. The venue deposit was $1,200, non-refundable. The photographer had already been paid half up front. I started making a list of calls I was going to have to make. Then I stopped. Closed the laptop. Because I realized I was already grieving a life I hadn't fully let go of yet. She'd been gone less than 24 hours, and I was already acting like it was over. But I think I already knew it was. She texted me 3 days later. I just want to make sure you're okay. I know this is hard. I'm sorry. I read it twice. Then I put my phone face down on the counter and went for a run. I'd started running again. Something I'd let slip over the years we'd been together. Turns out a lot of things I'd let slip. I'd stopped playing hockey on Thursday nights. Because she didn't like me coming home late. I'd let the friendships with some of my older friends go quiet because she'd never really clicked with them, and it was easier to just not push. Little things. The kind of things you don't notice happening until suddenly you're 40 feet of rope in, and you turn around and can't see the start anymore. I didn't respond to the text. On day 5 she called. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail said, "Hey, it's me. I wanted to hear your voice. I don't know. Call me back if you want. No pressure. 7 years, an engagement ring, a deposit on a venue in Elora, and no pressure. I didn't call back. What I did instead was call the venue in Elora and ask about cancellation. They kept the deposit, as I'd expected. I called the photographer, and she was actually very kind about it. She said she'd refund the second half of the payment, and she hoped I'd be okay. That phone call was harder than I expected. Her voice was so normal and so decent that it hit me sideways. I called my mom on a Sunday afternoon sitting in the backyard with a coffee. She lives in Guelph, about a 20-minute drive. I hadn't told her yet because I knew what it would cost her to hear it. She'd loved my partner. They had a real relationship, the two of them. They texted independently. My mom had been helping us plan the table arrangements for the wedding. When I told her, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Oh sweetheart, just that." 2 words. And something in me broke open that I'd been holding shut all week. "I'm okay," I said. My voice cracked. "I'm going to be okay." "I know you are." She said, "You are your father's son, you don't break." She offered to drive over. I told her to give me another day. I needed to get through the ugly part of the grief alone first, before I let anyone see me on the other side of it. 2 weeks after she left, I got a call from her sister. My former fiancée's sister and I had always gotten along well. She's a few years younger, lives in Waterloo, works in tech. She and I used to make fun of the same movies. We had a similar sense of humor. I genuinely liked her as a person. "I don't want to be in the middle of this," she said right away. "I just wanted to check on you." And I wanted to say, "What she did wasn't fair. You didn't deserve it." I appreciate that. She's not doing great, by the way. I'm not telling you that to make you feel anything. I just thought you should know. The guy she went to. It's not going the way she thought. That's not something I'm able to care about right now, I said. And I meant it gently, not coldly. I just meant it honestly. Her sister understood. "I get that. Take care of yourself, okay? You too, ooh." That was the last time I spoke to anyone from her family for a long time. Here's something no one tells you about this kind of breakup. It's not just grief. It's also embarrassment. There are people in your life who knew about the wedding. People who got the save the date. Friends who already booked flights, Vancouver and Calgary. Coworkers who'd signed the card at the staff party when you announced the engagement. I had to send a lot of messages that October was off. Most people were kind. A few were awkward in a way that I recognized. They didn't know whose side to take, so they took no one's. Which sometimes looks like disappearing. I lost 2 couples from our social circle who'd been more her friends than mine, and I'd known it, I just hadn't let myself acknowledge it while we were together because it didn't matter then. It mattered now. My friend from university. We've been close since first year at Western. Showed up one weekend with his truck and helped me rearrange the furniture in the apartment. Not because anything was wrong with how it was arranged. Just because it needed to look different. It needed to stop looking like the place where she and I had lived together. It needed to start looking like my place. We moved the couch to the other wall. We took down a print she'd chosen and put up a photograph I'd had in storage. A black and white shot of Lake Superior that I'd taken on a road trip when I was 23, before I'd met her. We drove to IKEA on a Saturday, and I bought a bookshelf and a new lamp, and we spent 3 hours assembling things and eating the meatballs at the cafe, and it was genuinely one of the better afternoons I'd had in a long time. Small things. But they added up. I started running more seriously. Started making it to Thursday night hockey again. Started cooking actual meals instead of defaulting to whatever was easiest. I called an old friend I'd let drift, and we grabbed beers at a pub in downtown Kitchener and talked for 4 hours. Life, slowly and stubbornly, began to look like mine again. About 6 weeks after she left, she called again. I almost didn't pick up. I held the phone in my hand for 3 full rings, watching her name on the screen. And then I picked up. Not because I wanted her back. I think I'd already processed enough to know that wasn't what this was. I picked up because I felt like I deserved to hear what she had to say. "Hey," she said. "Hey," a pause. "It didn't work out. With him." "Okay, I wanted you to know, and I wanted to say I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. I know what I asked of you was not okay." "You're right," I said. "It wasn't. I still love you," she said. "I know that probably doesn't help, but I need you to know that. I never stopped. I was confused and scared, and I made a terrible decision and I have to live with that." I was quiet for a moment. Outside my window, it was one of those gray October afternoons that Ontario does so well. The kind that looks melancholy but actually just looks like home. "I believe you," I said. You love me in whatever way you're capable of right now. But I need to be honest with you. I can't be with someone who looked at everything we had. 7 years, an engagement, a life we were building, and decided it was acceptable to treat that as a consolation prize. I don't hate you. I want you to be okay. But I'm not your backup plan and I never was. She was crying now. I know that. Is there any way? No, I said, not unkindly, just clearly, there isn't. I lost everything, she said through tears. And I thought about saying nothing, But instead I said, you didn't lose it. You chose to walk away from it. There's a difference. And you need to sit with that difference. Not because I'm punishing you, but because it's true and it matters. She didn't say anything for a moment. Take care of yourself, I said. Genuinely. I hope you figure out what it is you're looking for. I hung up. I sat on my couch for a while. The new lamp was on. The Lake Superior photograph was on the wall. Outside, a few maple leaves were coming down in the wind. The last ones, rust-colored, letting go. I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. Not triumph. Not relief, exactly. Something quieter than that. Like the end of a very long exhale. The months after that were not easy. I want to be honest about that, because this kind of story can sound too clean in the retelling. The truth is, there were evenings when I drove past restaurants we used to go to, and had to take a different route. There were weekends when the apartment felt like a container that was slightly too large for one person. There were nights, fewer as time went on, but still there, when I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with a specific kind of sadness that doesn't have a name. Just a weight. But there was also this. I started to know myself again. I realized I'd spent years quietly shrinking. Not dramatically, not because she was cruel. Just because two people who both want things can slowly, over time, arrange their lives around the intersection of what they both want. And then discover that the parts of yourself that live outside that intersection have gone a little quiet. A little dim, not gone. Just waiting. Running brought some of that back. Hockey brought more. The bookshelf I'd filled with things I actually wanted to read brought some too. The long phone calls with my brother. The Sunday dinners at my mom's in Guelph, where we'd sit at her kitchen table. And she'd cook something from scratch, and we'd talk until it was too late. And I'd drive back on the 401 with the radio low, and feel for the first time in a long time, like I was heading somewhere, rather than away from somewhere. I started mentioning this to a therapist in the new year. I'd never gone to therapy before. A colleague at work had suggested it, quietly after I'd let something slip in the staff room one afternoon. My therapist is a soft-spoken woman who asks very precise questions, and then lets the silence do the work. She helped me understand something I'd been circling around without being able to land on. I hadn't just lost a relationship. I'd lost a version of myself I'd been living as. And while that version wasn't bad, it also wasn't complete. The grief was real, but so was the permission. I didn't start dating for almost a year. I wasn't ready, and I had enough self-awareness by then to know what that felt like. But eventually, a friend, one of the guys from Thursday Hockey, the one who'd been after me for months to get back out there, set me up with someone he knew from his work. She was 31, taught elementary school in Cambridge, liked trail running and old films and terrible puns. She had a very serious opinion about the correct way to make poutine. And no patience whatsoever for people who put their bags on the seats beside them on the GO train. On our first date, at a bar in Uptown Waterloo, we talked for 3 hours, and I had to remind myself twice to stop smiling quite so much. That was 8 months ago. I'm not going to say I've figured everything out. I'm not going to say the story is finished. But I'll tell you this. I wake up in the morning now, and the first thing I feel is not dread or absence or the low hum of something unresolved. The first thing I feel is present. In my own life. In my own body. Like I'm actually here. My partner from before. I've heard through the mutual acquaintance overlap that exists in a mid-sized Canadian city, whether you want it to or not, has moved to a different city. I hope it's going well for her. I mean that without sarcasm. She's not a villain in this story. She's just someone who made a choice that cost her something real. And now she's living in the consequences of that. Same as we all live in the consequences of our choices. I don't think about her the way I used to. The thoughts, when they come, are distant now. Like looking at an old photograph of yourself, at an age you barely remember being. You can see it was you just don't feel like that person anymore. There's one more thing I want to say, because I think about it sometimes. In the weeks after she left, I got a call from her mom. I'd always liked her mom. Decent woman, good sense of humor, the kind of person who makes everyone feel welcome at the dinner table, without making a performance of it. She said, "Please, don't give up on her forever. She loves you. She made a mistake. People make mistakes." And I said, "I understand. And I respect that you love her, and you want what's best for her. But what you're describing as a mistake. Asking the person you're engaged to if you can go spend time with your ex, with the option of returning if it doesn't work out. That's not a moment of poor judgment. That's a fundamental question about how she sees me. And I think she answered it." Her mom was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You're a good man." "Thank you," I said. "I'm not doing this to punish her. I want to be clear about that. I'm doing this because I know my own value now, and I'm not willing to negotiate it down." I think about that sentence sometimes. Not with pride exactly. More with something like recognition. Because I didn't always know it. I had to lose something enormous to understand it. And maybe that's just how some things work. You don't become sure of your worth when everything is going well. You become sure of it when you're standing in your kitchen, At 8 in the morning with a mug of cold coffee, watching someone tell you you're an option, and you realize, quietly, clearly, without needing anyone else to confirm it, that you're not. I set the mug down. I said what I needed to say. And then, I let her go.